Hi, I'm going to spend hopefully not more than 4 or 5 minutes talking to you about how to think about volunteers. I have a helper, as you can see right here. This is Peony. My granddaughter named him. He's Peony Houdini. He is an escape artist, so he is Peony Houdini. Anyway, what I want to talk about for a little bit is really when we think about volunteers, we maybe think about volunteer jobs that we have, but I also am going to urge you to begin thinking about volunteers as people and their interactions also with the organization as, human relations kinds of interactions. So when we are thinking about how do we find a volunteer who's a fit for the job that we have, one of the things we want to do is think about what do we want somebody to be willing to do and why might people come to the job. So we are going to, in this table that you see on the screen, we're going to break these jobs down into 4 different characteristics. So the thing that you see up here that says affiliation, what they really mean is people who want to be affiliated with your cause, people who are passionate about your mission. On the other hand here, they're talking about people who have specific skills, and they probably do care about your cause, but they don't just want to come for the cause and bring their body. They actually want to bring their skill and put it to use for you. So when we're talking about people who just have an affiliation focus, we're talking about people who, even if they might be skilled, that's not what they want to do. They just want to show up and help you out however they can. And maybe specifically they don't want to use their skills because their motivation may in part be to get away from what they do on 8 hours a day job. All right, so we've got along this continuum, stop that, Peony. What we've got along this continuum is basically people who are there to use their skills on the one hand and people who are there just because they want to support your cause. How about this other continuum over here? This is the difference between people who want to do things once in a while or even just one-off, I'm going to show up and volunteer at your event because it sounds like fun, versus people who are willing to come in and work for the long term. Let's talk about some kinds of jobs that might be for the long term and some kinds of jobs that might be episodic. All right, let's say that you have a clinic and it goes to Gilbert, Arizona every Tuesday. Okay, so now you need some doctors and nurses to staff it. Well, definitely it needs to be somebody skilled because they need to be medically trained, doctors and nurses. But maybe you want them to come, if not every Tuesday to Gilbert. Maybe they can't get away every Tuesday, but you want them to come, as often as they can over the long haul. Maybe they're willing to come once a month, forever or for until whatever. So now you can see that those people need to be both skilled and long-term. What about skilled and one-off or episodic? Well, what if you are doing a health fair and that's just once a year? They still need to be skilled, but you only need them once a year. And it doesn't matter if the doctors that show up in 2016 are the same doctors that showed up in 2015. What matters is that they are skilled and they're willing to show up this once. It's nice if they will come back. It saves you having to find new people, but it's not urgent. Okay, what other kinds of things would you want somebody long term? Well, let's say you've got a volunteer manager. You want that person. They may or may not need to be skilled. They need people skills. But you definitely want them to be there for the long haul. You want them to form relationships with your volunteers and hang out. Okay, how about episodic? How about examples of episodic? Can you think of any that don't need any particular skills? They just want to help you. That would be the kind of thing where, you get a group of people to come in and stuff envelopes. Or perhaps you have an event or a party or something going on and you need some helper bees. They don't need any particular skill and it's just a one-off or an infrequent thing. How about, okay, so we talked about episodic skill focus. We talked about some different long-term things. And long-term skill thing would be like if you were doing oh yeah, I gave you the example of being in Gilbert every Tuesday. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. And when you start thinking about any particular volunteer job, one of the things that you want to do is ask yourself, what are we looking for? And part of that is so that you understand, and part of that is so that you can explain exactly what you want or you need to potential recruits so that they can see whether they can envision that kind of commitment. And if they can, then they're a good match. And if they can't, then they are not. And what you want is a good match. What you don't want is somebody who said yes because they didn't understand and then they don't show up or they never come back or whatever the situation is. Alrighty, that is the Foursquare, skills versus affiliation, episodic versus long-term.